contribution about big data and Datagate. So, Shaku Atre, you are on air.
Okay, thank you. So, this is a beautiful morning in New York City, and you are in your beautiful city of Milan, and I would have loved to be there, but I think I would like to thank Pierangelo and Sergio of IBM Italy to put up with me, because I'm a pretty, how should I say, asking to do everything. So let's get started about big data and Datagate, auditing big data, and what do we need to know? The first thing we need to do is that what is big data? Why is it important? And also I have put together a framework of the various rules, and I will go through all of this in 1 hour. Okay, so let's get started. Where I hope you can see the presentation slides and you can hear me. If you don't, then you have to call somebody from IBM. Okay, so let's take a look how we can look at the big data and how we can resolve the problems. The first thing which I would like to mention is that too many people are speaking about big data as if we never had big data. Many years we have had big data. There is difference between what we have now and what we had before, and that's what we would like to talk about. So really we should be shifting our focus from big to data, and then to big data business analytics, and then to the value gained. So let's take a look. These are the 10 rules which I have put together about the business analytics rule, access rule, scalability rule, flexibility rule, security and privacy rule, and we will spend a little bit more time on security and privacy, as well as visualization, data mining rule, dispersion and reassembly rule. This is one of the biggest differences with the today's environment of big data, dispersion and reassembly rule, and we'll take care of that in a few minutes. And then how do we access the dormant data? Because we have a lot of data which we have created in the past, and that's not all data that should be thrown away, but we would like to use it also in conjunction with the new data created. And this is a little bit sticky issue, is that we really don't have that many qualified people with the skill set necessary to handle all the kinds of issues that come with the big data. And one thing we should never forget is that we as human beings, it has taken us millions of years to be where we are now as compared to the computers, which have been maybe at the most 100 years. And so we should not completely disregard the human judgment. So I would talk a little bit about that too. So we will try to handle each rule one at a time, but one of the comments you most probably have heard is that some people have called data as the new oil. In my view, it could be new oil, but it is crude oil. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The crude oil is really of not much use. It has to be refined to be made into something which can create plastics of it. It can create pharmaceutical medications of it, tires and things like that. Otherwise, crude oil is almost of not big use. So if people are calling data as oil, in my view, it is crude oil. And what we really need to know is the business analytics done with that big data and that we get value out of it. So let's get started with the first rule. Number 1, we're talking about, it's a function of V5. V standing for, starting of the word, variety of data, various interactions due to correlations between data, velocity of data arrival and departure, volume of data, and then providing big value to the business via business analytics. So we are not just looking at data just because it's a lot of data, but we need to get business value via business analytics of the big data. And you always have to try to figure out what is your golden path, okay? Like Leonardo da Vinci's golden rectangle. Everything has its golden path, like which data is the most important data for you. And I am sure not all the data that you collect is important for you. So instead of wasting time in the data that's of no use to you or of very little use to you, the first activity has to be done is which data is important data for my organization. So that's rule number one of the 5 V's. And there are big data is a function of all of these 5 things. Now, the other thing which we have to see about the business analytics is that the first principle of analysis is what? You want to compare. It's based on comparison. Is it better or worse, what I have now as compared to what I had before? Or compared to what? Because it has to be a comparison. So first principle of analysis is based on comparison. Second principle of analysis is based on evidence. That means the facts, and the data doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie. So what we sold, how we sold, why we sold or didn't sell, what we were able to sell compared to the goal set. So you have to be able to, again, as we said before, number one thing, try to find out which data is important data. Number two thing now is that can you set some goals? Because there has to be some comparison between what you had and what you are having now. And then the third principle of analysis is based on the number 1 and 2 is that you have to come up with actionable information. Why, how, what, where, when, and how much. So what action should we be taking, or should we keep it status quo? So these are the 3 principles of the business analytics. So the number 1, find out which data is the most important data. Number 2 is what is important for you as far as business analytics is concerned. Can you have some data to support 1, 2, and 3? Then we say, number 2, the rule number 2, we have to provide access to that data. We have different types of users. The technology-savvy users and customers, the percentage, I'm not talking about the absolute number. I'm talking about percentage of the user base or user population. The percentage of technology-savvy users or customers is going down. The business-savvy users and customers are making more use of the data. One of the basic rules for this is that easier you make for people to have access to data, more they are going to use it. And this mobile revolution has made it easier for people to go around and have access to data anywhere where they are. So your users and customers, the business environment is growing up. The young customers of the less than 25 years of age is on the rise at a very fast rate, and of course we all know it's because of the social media. So now we are talking about different types of user base had joined us. We don't have anymore only the users sitting in our buildings. We have people, users who are far-fetched. They are everywhere. So we have to talk about which data should be accessed by whom, when, where, how. So that's the rule number 2. Now, when we talk about this rule number 2, then following rule number 3 now is that since the data is big, and of course big is a relative term, it is big. It's unbelievably big, okay? So for that, we have to have scalability. That means we are talking about the growth in what? Growth of data, growth of number of users, growth of various devices and channels, which are used for sending and receiving data, growth of various functionalities, which we haven't even thought about, growth of interactions between these variables. Because when you have bigger number of users and you are providing more functionalities, then you are also providing different devices and channels. And with all of this, what is one of the biggest things that is happening is that people are having very high expectations of the performance of providing the data, of accessing the data, providing the interaction with the data, providing actionable information. And I always say your happiness depends on your expectations. Okay, so this is the rule number 3. So that means we have to identify which data is very important, how do we have business analytics out of it, which are our users who are going to use it, and how are we going to support the growth in every area. So this is our rule number 3. Rule number 4 now is that we have to have flexibility, because we cannot throw away everything that we have had and start everything new. We have to live with what we have also. That means I have to be able to provide, receive and accept data from a variety of devices, from various types of users who may not be technologically very savvy, in a variety of formats, in variety of speeds and various volumes. That means our environment has to accommodate the flexibility of the use of the data. That's the rule number 4. Now, when we say, all right, we have huge, humongous data, humongous, ferocious, monstrous data that we have, how are we going to provide privacy? But before privacy, what do we have to provide? We have to provide security, because security and privacy walk hand in hand. If we do not have security, then we cannot provide privacy. And it is so much data, and a lot of private information is going to be stored, shared, sold. So how are we going to do that? And that's one of the main topics I would imagine you have to work with. Let's take one example. A car is driving through a toll booth. It's on the highway, driving through the toll booth, so it doesn't have to stop to pay the toll. What's happening here now? What are the interacting databases that are accessed here? Let's say the car is driving through. It has on the windshield a little document which is read by the system at the toll booth, which deducts money from your credit card. So now your credit card information is somewhere accessed. Now when the car passes through, it can look at the license plate. With the license plate is Department of Motor Vehicle involved. With it, most probably, the owner of the car is driving the car, because about 90-95% of the time, it's the owner on whose name the car is registered is driving the car. Now, that owner's private information about the age, about anything like with your eyes, if in case you need thick glasses, or if you have something with your ears and so on. So medical information is also stored by Department of Motor Vehicle. So that means that driver's private information is going to be at risk. So we will get back to this point 5, rule number 5, about security and privacy in few minutes to see what is it that you have to take care of. Now, the rule number 6 is that, as you know, the data is humongous, it's monstrous. It has to be presented in easily understandable way. So for the business analytics, it has to have effective performance dashboard integrating what? Now we have talking about data which is not only the numbers. It has words, it has numbers, it has images, it has possibly audio, video, and some other sources which we don't even know today because we have different senses. We speak, so we are talking about words, we understand numbers, images, we see with the eyes, we hear, so that's the audio, video. How about the touch? And how about the taste? Those are the two senses which we are not using still. So we may be using them in the next few years. I mean, that's the progress, which is that all the senses are being used. That means all the data is going to be created, not only numbers, not only the keys, the way we used to have, but we have words, numbers, images, audio, video, and so on. So the performance dashboards have to be based on the key performance indicators determined by the organization. Okay? So that's the rule number 6. Okay? So we are listening to, after seeing the rule number 6, let's see what is our rule number 7. Rule number 7 is the dispersion and reassembly rule, which is the rule of the dispersion and reassembly means we are talking about huge amounts of data, and that data has to be taken care of. That data has to be taken care of with that here. Do you have a problem with audio? Audio problem. Okay. Rule number 7, dispersion reassembly. Okay. Now with the dispersion and reassembly, what do we mean by that? Okay. The problem is that now when we have huge amount of data, we cannot have one machine handling it, but we are going to have many machines, many small computers, and the data has to be dispersed and put together again. So dispersion and reassembly. That's the rule number 7. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Because I hear a lot of noise. Okay? All right. The next rule is the rule number 8. Okay? Rule number 8 is we have data which we have collected over the years, and it is important data. So we cannot just throw it away. So we say we would like to use the dormant data access rule, which is structured data. Remember, we talked about before, we had only numbers and we use keys. That is structured data. Unstructured data is words. This PowerPoint slide is unstructured data. Emails that we send is unstructured data, which cannot be put in columns of relations. That is unstructured data. By the way, almost over 10 years ago, I wrote 5 columns on unstructured data, and at that time, I was called by many people, and they were saying, yeah, what are you talking about? I said, just wait another few years, and then you will understand. So what I would very much like you to go to our website, I will give you the links, and you can go and read about the unstructured data's 5 columns, which I published in 2003. So this is the dormant data access. That's the rule number 8. Now, rule number 9, we say, now we have all kinds of things now which we need with disciplines of computer science, mathematics, statistical analysis, data visualization, and also the statistical analysis, and even social sciences. So that's the rule number 9, where we say big data system skill set rule, And that is one of the biggest problems you are going to face. To have people with skills with computer science, mathematics, statistical analysis, data visualization, and even social sciences because of the social media. So team with skill sets in business knowledge and expertise in data science, just mark that down that this is going to be one of the biggest problems you are going to have. Now with all of that, we say what are the different skill sets? We are talking about business skills. We are talking about, first of all, we are talking about big data skills, structured, semi-structured, unstructured data. So you have to differentiate between which data is important for you, which is structured, semi-structured, or unstructured. Then the business information or business skill set, vertical industry, is it pharmaceutical? Is it retail industry? That's the vertical. Then specialty of the vertical industry. Even in the telecommunications, there are so many specialties in that vertical industry. And there are some more specialties. Technology, analytics with deductive logic, data mining, handling of how do we handle big data. And then business analytics and presentation, you have various reports, spreadsheets, dashboards, visualization with audio, video presentation. Okay? So that is the skill set necessary which you will have to have. Then what are the top 10 rules in this case here, which is the number 10 rule, which is equally important, is that determine how business analytics can add the most improvement value, but do not forget big human judgment. Okay? Now, do not keep in mind that garbage in, garbage out is valid for any machine. But the human brain is capable of determining what garbage is and what is not almost in an unlimited way. So I have written just recently the uninterrupted operational intelligence. I'll give you one example. In a hospital, the prematurely born babies, and this is a real example we worked on, prematurely born babies, they were doing fine, so the physicians thought everything is okay. But the nurses in the ward, they were spending, of course, more time with the prematurely born babies. They saw something else. You know, it's like when there is going to be a storm, before the storm, it's very calm. So there was calm before the storm. So when everything was perfect, what the heart rate, the oxygen in the blood, and everything, all the measures were perfect, that's when it was at a still stand and they got infection. So people who are at the operational side, they understand it, so they should be able to make decisions on the spot and should not have to wait till somebody somewhere in big corporate offices tells them what to do. Okay? So big human judgment is very important. Okay, now let's go to our security and privacy. For the security requirements, a typical distribution of security requirements is as follows. I have done some surveys and looked at some data. 85% of data needs little or no security. 13% of data needs some level of security, and 2% of data needs high level of security. So let's take a look at what we should do. So security and privacy walk hand in hand. If there is no security implementation, there is no privacy implementation. As we just saw about the toll booth, then we say, okay, what do we do about this now? So privacy issues of time and location of data. So people can find out now, let's say you're renting a car. Now you have signed that you will not be with that car in certain area. You have signed the contract. But now the rental company with Google or whatever they are using, they can find out exactly where you are. So in case you are breaking the contract, they could penalize you. Okay? So now, is this the way it should be? For the business, maybe. But what about if somebody says that there are elderly people who have dementia and they walk around and don't know where they are? Should we put microchips in them? Or to locate where the kids are so they are not taken away by somebody, kidnapping, should we put microchips in them? So now, here we are talking about the things which could be a lot of privacy involved in that. Okay? So we have to think about this. Now, another thing which is coming along is with the cloud. So people are saying, let's go cloud so that it's much easier for us to do it, because then people from all around the globe can have access to the data. So public cloud versus private cloud. So now, in this case, there are pluses and minuses of public cloud and privacy cloud. So that's one of the questions which you have to ask the organization you are auditing, what kind of policies do they have vis-a-vis cloud. Okay? Now, let's look at some of the privacy principles. It has to be transparent. Number one thing, it has to be transparent. That you have to let people know why information is being collected. Number two is offer the opportunity to choose what information is used and or disclosed. Number three, information is only disclosed to the parties consistent with notice and choice. Okay? Because otherwise what's happening, information is collected and it's just dispersed to anybody and everybody. All of a sudden you start getting emails and letters in the mail or whatever, all kinds of offers. Protect collected information from loss, disclosure, destruction. How many times have you come across that the credit card numbers were stolen by hackers? I would even suggest that sometimes it is wise to hire a hacker to break your system. Hire a hacker to figure out where the loopholes are. Okay? And of course, after the person leaves, change it. Data integrity. Ensure the information is true, complete, and up to date. Access. Individuals should have access to their personal data. If I have given some data, I should be able to look at it myself, how it is being used. And accountability. Firms must be accountable for these principles and ensure compliance. So it should be done every few months or every few weeks, depending on the data, how private the data is and how secure the data should be. So now, what are the different ways of implementing security? Centralized versus decentralized solutions, physical security, logical security, and in the logical security, authentication, authorization, and access control. So there should be logs of who has seen what when. Okay, so now let's take a look at this chart here. These are the various areas or tools or storage devices where data is collected. Okay, mainframe, you have communication server, database server, LAN file server, you have PCs, you have laptops, mobile server devices, and some more things. Okay, so try to find out the path from to. Okay, so here we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Okay, these are the paths. Okay? There might be many more paths, but I didn't want to have like a huge conglomerate of crossing lines. Okay? So you have to have that, all the paths from and to the data. Then you prepare this chart. So these are your paths, and then you see security exists and no security. Maybe if there is no security, it's okay for some, but for some it may not be. So this would be one of the action items for you to figure out what is connected to what and what kind of security exists and whether any security exists at all. Okay, so now let's take a look at, again, security and privacy centered, big data and auditing. Instead of trying to build out your own big data infrastructure, use big data capabilities in the cloud. But very important questions are, which big data is considered important enough to be secured? Does your organization have big data security skills? Have you thought about many other domains are also involved, such as legal, privacy, operations, and staffing? Okay, so this is what I am recommending to you as auditors. You have to concentrate on this. So these are our 10 rules as we started in the beginning. Okay, so now let's go to see what you have to do. How do I audit organizations with big data? So let's take a look at the rule number 1. Okay, now questions for the client. What are the different types of big data you are planning to use? Oh, by the way, I do conduct in Rome 2-day seminar on visualization of the dashboard and 2 days on big data. And the dates are already set for next year. It's May 11, 12, and 13, 14. May 13 and 14 are for big data. And I go into many more details about all of this, which is in Rome by Technology Transfer Institute. So I will give you my email address, and you can go through it as well as go to our website. I will give you that too. So now let's see for the rule number 1. So you take these 10 rules, and for each rule, what do you have to do? You have to ask your client for auditing. What are the different types of big data you are planning to use? Describe to me, as the auditor, types of big data, volume, noise in data. Are you deleting serially correlated data? If yes, how? If not, why not? Example of serially correlated data. Let's take an example of an airplane. In the airplane, there are various sections of the plane where there are whole bunch of little computers, sensors, they are called sensors, which collect the data every microsecond. Now, they are watching that the level of carbon monoxide doesn't go beyond certain level, that it stays within certain range. Now, when it's taking the data, collecting data every microsecond, this microsecond, next microsecond, third microsecond, fourth microsecond, they are not that big, there is not that big of a difference. So there is serial correlation. That means maybe you collect only every half a minute or every quarter of a minute and not every microsecond. Okay? So serially correlated data. That means you have to make sure you don't look at all the data, because you have to be 1,000 years old in order to be done with it. Then you have to see, ask your organization, ask your customer, what variety of data do you have? Have you classified it? How many different types of data are you managing? Can you specify what they are? What kind of interactions are there? How fast is it coming to you? It's hitting you. What's the volume? What type and how much value are you getting out of it? I have prepared a spreadsheet of all the different variables in there which you could use. Okay? So this is for the rule number 1. This was now the rule number 2. We are saying access rule. Do you have any cross-reference list of which data is being accessed by which users? Okay? Very important. Many times it's not the machines which create big damage. It's the people. Okay? Which customer data is accessed by which users in your organization? Do you have any categories of user groups and corresponding needs for data? Does the client have any standards for use of mobile device? Are they using bring your own device? Any standards for that? How user-friendly are your systems? I'm going to talk about user-friendliness. Then how strong a presence do you have on the web? And do you use cookies? Okay, so not the chocolate cookies, but the cookies in the internet. Then what is user? You know why? I'll tell you why it's called a cookie. I always have some explanations for things. You know why it's called a cookie? I'm sure you all have heard the story of Hansel and Gretel. Hansel and Gretel, where they went into the forest, and in order to find their path back, they left crumbs of the cookies, so that when they reached the destination to come back home, they could follow those cookies. So why is this called cookie? Because it keeps track of where we are or where we have been. That's my explanation. You won't find it written anywhere. But I try to remember things by correlation, by inference. Okay, so now what is user-friendliness and user-intuitiveness? Everything is now user-friendly. But you have to find some numbers to figure out how user-friendly it is or how user-intuitive it is. Average or median time to learn procedures, speed of task accomplishment, acceptable rate of user errors. If users are making too many errors and too many users are making too many errors, it's the system which is at fault. Just like if many students are failing a test, it may not be the students, it most probably is the test. What percentage of users ask for user's manual? Almost 0. User retention of commands and queries over a period of time. If they haven't used it, can they use it without having to learn again? The easiest system is your ATM card. You can put it in only 4 ways, so you don't have to remember. Subjective satisfaction, do they like to use it? And help systems should really help. But I've come across too many software products where you go into help and you cannot get out. What kind of help is that? So that's the user friendliness. Now, with that, for each rule, I have prepared a list of questions that you can ask of your clients for auditing based on the 10 rules, such as I have done the 3 slides. So send me an email to the email address shaku@atre.com requesting those slides, and I will email those to you. Then visit this site so that you can have access to some of the published materials, and I would suggest you read on the unstructured data as well as go to look at the blog for the big data. Visit the blog. So these are the links which you could follow. And by the way, these are the various things which you can read also. Take a look at them, okay? And I used to be. I have written 6 books and thousands of articles, and some of them are on my website. And I have written on business intelligence roadmap, and I was a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the biggest auditing companies. So I am talking from experience, okay? So with that then, big data questions. Following questions have been requested as a backup. So I think I have given you enough of the links for the people who could not read them. You could read them. And it's now my time, 11:40, just about 11:37. So I'm done with my presentation. If you have any questions, please go ahead. What was that?
I'm going to look for a microphone in order to ask you some questions if people have some. Just a moment.
What was that? I could not hear you.
Allora, fai tu con le tue preparate.
Shaku, do you hear me?
Could cover those. Okay. Use the headset. Okay.
Is it okay?
I will have to go to my.
No.
Wow. Okay, I have it on.
Shaku,
Okay.
probably the best is you answer to the questions that I sent you on Monday.
I cannot understand.
Okay.
Can you email the question?
They are those
I cannot
that you
understand.
received.
Why don't you put them in the help? Could
I
you send
sent-
them in the help?
I sent you these questions.
Yeah, send me in chat.
Come fai a metterti?
Send me in chat. Can you send me in chat?
Posso farlo adesso? Non posso farlo adesso. Possiamo proiettarle, magari riesce a vedere.
Che?
Gliele avevo mandate, ce le ha?
Sì, mi infatti ora non funziona. Aspetta, se dovrebbe che funzioni di qui e non di là.
I know only broken Italian, I'm sorry. I can only order in a restaurant.
That's not bad.
Okay, first of all, okay, it was very clear. I would like to receive the slides, please, okay? So you have to send, anybody who wants to have the slides, please send me an email. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is my email address. Okay, shaku@atre.com. Very easy to remember. Okay? So send me an email and I will send you all the slides.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that Daniela? And I want to thank Daniela
Yes.
publicly because she put up with me, with my demands also. Okay?
Okay,
So thank you very much, Daniela.
Thank you, Shaku.
Okay,
It was a
big
really
data seems to be on long business experience. Yes, you're right. The question is, okay, the question is, okay, the success stories of big data seem to be very dependent on long business experience on the internet. You are absolutely right. and not only internet, but also mobile internet. Not on the laptop or, okay, but mobile environment. Okay? Now, what would you advise to new starters? Okay, for the new starters, first of all, the number one thing is that get involved with your mobile devices that your users are using. Okay? Because that's very important. The second thing is that then try to find out which data is collected and which data is important. And I would not be surprised if only 1 or 2% of the data is very important. Okay? So if you try to cover everything, you are never going to be done. Okay? Then try to understand the business analytics, how to use the data for business analytics. And since you are auditors, you have to, first of all, get involved with security and privacy. Okay? How much time, effort should be allowed for a new starter to obtain the results? That is, what answer do you want? What answer do you want? Huh? I mean, it depends, right? It depends on what you want to do with the big data. Do you know what big data you have? Do you know how to use Hadoop? So there are many things that people don't know how to use. Okay, because big data is used, since it's humongous data, your one big mainframe is not going to handle it. You have to use many small processors. That means you have to be able to split the data. Okay, so we are talking about disbursement and assembly. That was one of the rules. I'm not trying to sell my seminar, okay? But try to see whether you want to come May 13 and 14 to Rome. Okay? So, should security protection of big data be extended to avoid that internal users violate ethic rules while collecting information from outside? Yes. Now, big data be extended to avoid. Yeah, but you know what? The internal users violating ethic rules has nothing to do with big data. You have to train them first or watch them about the ethics. Ethics has nothing to do with big data. If a person is ethical, whether it's small data or big data, the person is ethical. If the person is not ethical, it doesn't matter whether it's small data or big data. Okay? So I don't think it is the question of big data. Okay? All right. So anything else? I don't see you. I cannot see you. I would have loved to be in your beautiful city of Milan. But thank you very much for putting up with this. And once again, I want to thank IBM and the association and Daniela in particular to invite me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.